So should you be trading with your own capital or should you be using prop firms? This is one of the biggest questions in trading, and today we're going to break it all down. We're going to cover the real pros and cons of each, the traps traders might fall in for each of these, and ultimately why trading with prop firms might just be the smartest path if you have a system with an edge. And make sure you stick around right till the end, because I'm also going to show you how here at Blue Edge Financial we are running this system like a business and why this changes the entire game. All right, so let's start by going into some pros and cons of each, and we're going to be starting with trading with your own capital. So first, let's look at some of the pros. So the first one is that you are in full control. There's no restrictions, no rules. It's your account. You can do what you want with it. And the next one I want to talk about is you get to keep 100% of your profits, right? Obviously, whatever you make, it's your money. You get to keep it. And finally, there isn't the same kind of pressure as trading in a prop firm challenge. You don't have all of these stresses on you, which can affect your trading. But with that said, on the flip side, this is your own capital, right? So maybe a loss can hurt you a little bit more. So it is kind of a 50-50 saying that, but I am going to put that in the pros for now. So let's talk about some of the cons then. The first one is that you need a significant capital if you want to actually make significant money. For example, if you had $10,000, which is considered a lot of money to people, and you are making on average, let's say 5% per month, which is a decent amount even for a good trader, you'll only be looking at getting a $500 monthly profit. Now, obviously, this is not enough to quit your job on, right? So with that being said, you definitely need access to quite a large sum of money, which in most cases, a lot of people don't have. The next con I want to talk about is that the risk is all on you, right? This is your account. Whatever happens, it's all on you. Whatever you lose is real money, and it can really, really hurt. And there's always that potential that you can actually blow an entire account, right? Which we do see with a lot of newer traders, right? Now, often this is smaller accounts and often they are trying to flip these accounts. But with that being said, there is occasions that even bigger capitals, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, you can get to the point where you lose everything. And this even happens to good traders. So don't just think this is the bad trader. So, you've got to be very careful when you are trading your own money. And then finally, growth can be very, very slow. Compounding takes a lot of time. For example, if you start with, let's say, $5,000 and you can consistently make 10% per month. Now, this is highly unlikely for most traders because 10% a month consistently, almost impossible. Even your top traders are not making this kind. But just for the sake of this example, you're making 10% returns. That means you're only going to be turning around $500 per month with a $5,000 balance, right? Now, this is going to take you a very long time to grow that account to the point that you can actually potentially replace your full-time salary, right? This is going to take you a long time. We're talking potentially years, because you've got to remember, right? No trader on this earth is consistently making a growth of anywhere from 5 to 10% every single month, right? Even the best traders are going to have losing months. So with that being said, you're going to have maybe a 5% month this month. Next month, you maybe have a 3% loss. You have a losing month. So you've got to take that into consideration. So now let's jump over to trading prop firms, have a look at some of the pros trading with prop firms. Now, the first one is obviously you can trade with 50K, 100K, even up to 500K. Now, most prop firms will let you go up to about 300K. That's normally the max they'll allow you to trade with. But in some cases, you can go up to $500,000. Now, this is a lot of money and it's very accessible. For example, you're just putting down $500 to potentially get capital of $100,000, right? So the potential for these larger sums of capital is definitely the first pro I have to talk about, because that's the main thing we want from prop firms, right? The next one is, I would say that your risk is capped. And what do I mean by that? It means that if you fail, you're trading on a $100,000 account. Your drawdown is normally, let's say on a daily basis, is 4 or 5%, so 4,000. So let's say you lose on a daily basis $4,000, but you're not actually losing $4,000. All you lose is what you paid for that challenge, which in most cases for 100,000 is anywhere from $400 to $500. So that's how your risk is capped, right? It's only what you're spending on the challenge. The next one is scaling programs. Now, a lot of these prop firms will have incredible scaling programs, but these I would say are only really pros for your top tier traders, your 1% traders, because it's very, very difficult to go all the way with these scaling programs. Now, the next one is obviously the potential for much larger payouts much faster, right? To get to, let's say, a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 payout from a $100,000 account, you could potentially be there in a couple months, right? If you start a challenge now, you pass it this month, you take your phase 2. Some now have only single phase challenges, so you could potentially be getting to your first payout within the same month as starting the challenge, right? So you can get access to this capital and potentially access to your first payout so much faster than if you were trading your own live account. And then the final one is that we have such a large number of prop firms to choose from, right? There's almost a never-ending list of prop firms. This does mean that there are some dodgy ones, but the point is that we have so many prop firms to choose from now, a lot of really good ones, right? So that is a very good thing. Now let's have a look at some of the cons, guys. The first one is obviously the rules and the restrictions, right? A lot of these guys will have daily drawdowns, news, trading limits, consistency rules, all of these things that can make it a little bit more difficult to trade. It can also be a good thing though, right? If you are trading prop firms a lot, this will teach you to be very disciplined. You know, you'll be able to manage your risk. So when you eventually do go and trade your own account later down the line, let's say, this should have kind of given you a little bit more discipline and risk management for you to trade on your live account, which can be a good thing. But for now, for trading prop firms, it's a con. The next one is the payout percentages. So you're not always going to be getting 100% of what you make. So most of the times you will get 80% of what you make, right? So you make $2,000 on a $100,000 account, you'll get 1,800 of that. So that's a con. You're not getting all of it, but still not bad. Then the other thing is, like I talked about, not every firm is legit. You know, there are some scammy firms out there. So you've got to be very careful which ones you choose, because you can lose money with these firms that are, you know, just screwing a lot of people. So before we go on to the next one, I just want to do a comparison here. When I finished the trading with your own account, I talked about managing a $5,000 account where you can make 10% in a month and you're going to be making 500. Now let's put that into perspective and flip that around, right? Start with $500. That's your initial investment, 500, not 5,000. You get to a funded account of $100,000. Now you get a 10% return on that, the same 10%. Now you're looking at $10,000 profit where you get to keep 8,000 of that, right? So with your initial investment of 500, you can make up to $8,000 in the same scenario. Now compare that to the $500 that you would have made trading the same system, the same rules, you know, the same success rate. There's a big difference, right? 500, 8,000. Just put into perspective the potential of prop firms. So now I want to talk about why I think that prop firms can be more favorable. So the first one I want to talk about is risk reward is very skewed in the trader's favor, right? You're putting down $500 initially to pay for a challenge. You get to a funded account. Now you have $100,000 capital to trade with. You get to keep 80% of whatever you make. So you can see how the risk reward is very, very skewed, right? Your initial risk is only 500. You can now make 1,800, 2,000. You make multiple payouts. You know, it can just keep on going on and on. So the next one I want to talk about is if you have a strategy with an edge, which is what we always talk about, making sure that you're coming into, you know, trading prop firms with an edge. I mean, any kind of trading, you got to be trading with an edge, right? But you can essentially start running this like a business, right? Take multiple accounts, run it with an edge, and ultimately you'll see that you start stacking these accounts. And there's so many prop firms out there, like I talked about. So the opportunities are endless when it comes to trading this way. So with a systematic approach, you can run multiple challenges at once and start stacking it like a conveyor belt. Now I've talked about this conveyor belt system in other videos, so make sure you go and watch it. And ultimately it just means that, you know, as you lose challenges and lose funded accounts, you just keep replacing it with the next one, and you can just keep running this. And this is where it starts running it like a business. Then you're essentially leveraging the prop firm model to accelerate returns without really ever putting that much of your own capital into it, right? Not in the same way as if you were trading your own funds. You would have to put a lot more of your own capital to see the same kind of return. So this leads me on to talking about the blue edge way, right? Exactly what we're doing. And we're doing everything I just talked about, right? We have got a system that has an edge. We've got this prop farming blueprint system that we've generated, we've come up with over years that has an edge on the market. And we are very data driven. Everything we do is data, right? We know we have a proven edge, right? We've proven it works time and time again. Like I said, we've got over 1,500 of our members that have been funded with prop firms. And we even have a lot of those have gone on to be funded over $1 million in total with prop firms. And we're starting now to see a lot of our traders actually holding a serious amount in active funding, right? We have a few that are over $1 million in active funding. You know, as an average trader, it's going to be very difficult to get to a point where you're holding $1 million in capital on your own account. It's almost impossible, right? But with this system, you can. Your average traders, even people that don't really know how to trade, are making this work. So how does it work, right? We have an automated EA that runs these challenges for you. You pick your system, you pick your strategy, you pick your set file, and it just runs, and you either will pass or fail. We already know our pass rates. It's all data data driven, like I said. This is just running constantly in the background on autopilot, so you don't really have to do much. Once you've set it up, it just keeps going. Now, the cool thing is we also have another bot which you can use if you want. We don't force our clients to use it, but it's very good for newer clients coming in, and that is the hedge bot, right? And that just means that anything that happens on the challenge is kind of, counted on a hedge bot, which is run on your own live account. Now, what this means is if you do fail a challenge, instead of losing that $500, you'll make back anywhere from 80 to 100% on your hedge bot. So essentially you are, in some cases, not even paying for your challenge. Worst case scenario, you're paying 10 or 20% for the challenge, right? So instead of gambling, we approach this like a business, like I talked about, and everyone in our community knows how the system works, and they're also running it like a business. And we're seeing a huge amount of success. Our edge is repeatable. Every day in our Discord community, you're seeing, people passing challenges, calling out their payouts and showing payouts. It's just a daily thing that we see now. So the result is consistent payouts, consistent scaling, and consistent growth, right? So if this is something you're interested in, guys, make sure you go to www.propfarming.com, have a look at the demo video there, fill in the application form. But with that being said, guys, I do just want to finish by saying that I in no way am saying that trading with your own capital is bad. I'm just saying it's a lot harder to get to the amount of money you need to actually make a difference, right? Get to a point that you can quit your job, for example. But the cool thing about this system that I've talked about is this could potentially be the best of both worlds. You use this system to generate enough capital to down the line actually be trading on your own live account, right? This would be a great way to generate capital. It's not money that you've been saving month after month and just slowly putting away, that when you do actually put that into account, every loss hurts. This would be money you've specifically created for this purpose, and it'll be easier to trade. So definitely a great way to do both, right? So with that being said, guys, I hope you liked the video. If you did, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll be doing a lot of cool videos coming up in the next few months, so make sure you are subscribed. And with that being said, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.